Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butter ATL. And today, we got a legend up in here. We got a very, very special guest. You gonna know who he is just by the voice. Because this is the voice of Atlanta, Mr. Ryan Cameron. How you doing, bro?
Welcome aboard the plane train. This plane is departing. Please hold on and wait for the next train. I want to start off like that because I still get a kick out of that, man. I still get a kick out of the plane train being my voice. And whenever people, they go through the airport, like out of all the things I've done, it is the one thing that everybody talks about. And then I was like, why? But then somebody said, it's 250,000 people that ride the train every day. Mm-hmm. That's 92 million people a year. So I'm good. I'm glad to be on. I'm glad to be on with you, B. Finally.
Hey, finally, man. I appreciate you. And look now, how many times did you have to record that? Like when you went in there, like were you like one take Tony with it?
No,
had you there all day?
Because it's international. What they wanted it to sound friendly, right? Because usually if you come to an airport, you kind of feel like you're lost. Like, man, how long do I need to stay on before I get the baggage claim or whatever? So I was doing it a certain way, and then like, I need you to smile more. So, concourse A as in, or B as in burgers. And then, ooh. So, I wanted to be like, yo, folk, hey, bro, sit still, my boy. But they was like, nah, that ain't gonna work.
They should have that one just on 404 day.
Right.
They should
404 day, right.
They should just change all the audio on 404 day and make it like straight Atlanta.
Hold on, bro. This thing about to take off.
It's funny, like, as an airport veteran myself, like, I don't think people fully understand how crazy that thing used to sound like, please move to the center of the vehicles and away from, like, that robotic voice it used to have.
What's funny is that's an actual person.
Really? I thought.
Yeah. So if you Google airport plane train voice, there's a story where the lady who got the job, the news took the people out and they were like, hey, this is the lady who does the plane train. And they're like, okay, do the voice. And she made her voice sound different, which I didn't understand. Like, why would you not have it sound like you?
Right.
So she made herself sound like a computer, and then everybody was like, "No, I don't know if that's her." And then, no, that's her. And I was like, so I wasn't gonna do that because I wanted it to be. It's me. That's what we're doing.
How do those opportunities even come around? Like, how does somebody decide? You know what? We need a new voice for the plane train. We need a new voice for these things.
I was riding the train one day about 9 years ago, just like anybody else, and I heard the voice, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be dope if they say like, if they sold it like C as in Coca-Cola or D as in Delta? I said, that's a way to sponsor it, and then you could get money. And I didn't know it was a government agency and it couldn't be sold. Mm-hmm. But I presented the idea to Mayor Kasim Reed. And he said, I think it's a great idea. I had an actual sit-down meeting, and it kind of got tabled. And then Keisha came along, and it got tabled. And then Andre came along, and I was like, man, I got this idea for the plane train. I sent it out maybe like 10 years ago. He was like, word? And I was like, yeah. And, I submitted with everybody else, and the next thing you know, I'm in there, I'm doing the TSA announcements, which is funny because the only thing that people recognize is the sex trafficking one. And I'm like, they were like, yo, I heard you doing the sex trafficking there. And I'm like, well, whoa. Whoever that is, you need to let him go. Because they're getting ready to get you. Out of all the things I'm saying about hold on to your luggage, all you cared about is the sex trafficking one. So it went from TSA, and then they were like, we want the voices. Jan Lennon, who was the general manager interim out there, said, I want it to be a universal voice throughout the airport. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, that means everything. And I was like, okay. She said, other than the mayor doing the welcome, I want the plane train, I want the rent-a-car train, I want the TSA to all be the same voice. And I was like, say less.
Oh, man. So kid growing up in Atlanta, now you're the voice. And again, you're the voice of Atlanta. Now you're the voice of everybody coming to Atlanta, too. So you're like the first thing people hear when they touch down now, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of surreal. I mean, coming up the escalator and then having, the big billboard and all that. I mean, people that are relatives or come in town for business, like even the founder of the company was like, I was coming up and I saw your big head on the thing. And I was like, thanks, Alfred, Liggins. I appreciate, I guess that support, but yes, it's a big deal, man. I'm really happy about it.
That's dope, man. So one thing I've always wanted to ask you is, I always see hashtag Yacht Dreams.
Yeah.
After everything you post, like what's that about? Like where did that come from? But also, what's it about though?
Well, Fisher Island in Miami is the most expensive zip code in the nation, right? And if you Google Fisher Island, the average property down there, and it's away from Miami. You actually have to catch a ferry to go to Fisher Island. Now it's all private. You used to have a hotel there, but you have to have somebody that you know has to invite you. It used to be like I took my wife at the time down there for her 40th birthday and flew 27 people in. We had the whole island. There's no Starbucks. There's no car wash. There is a school. There is a grocery store and about 4 or 5 restaurants. But in the middle of that is a yacht slip where people are in there and they have all of their boats parked. And so I was there one day with my daughter Kai. We'd always go to this brick oven pizza place and sit out on the thing, and I'd be sitting there with my beer, and they bring out the pizza, and I'd be looking at all the boats out there, and I was like, man, Kai. She's like, I know, Dad. One day you're gonna have a boat, and you're gonna be. And I was like, listen, Kai, my Scorpio daughter, I got yacht dreams, okay? And I think it's going to come true one day. And she was like, okay. And so when I left the radio, I told that story. I said, this is for all the people that have yacht dreams, right? And for some reason, it stuck and became a hashtag. And people started posting it and putting yacht dreams behind it. It's like we all aspire to do bigger and better things, and we see them from afar. But how do we get there? And so that's where the whole yacht dreams thing came about. Now, the follow-up, which I've never talked about, is I got invited on a yacht, right? And the lady who was like the steward who ran the yacht, I was like, man, this is incredible. I said, how much does one of these boats cost? Because I expect to be millions. She's like, oh, he said, you can get this boat for about maybe $400,000. And I was like, $400,000? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, how? She said, well, one thing about yachts, you can't tell the year. Like, if you go out here now and it's a 1990 Benz, you're like, oh, that's an old-ass Benz. Yeah. But you don't know if it's a 1990 yacht. She said they all look alike, except for the inside. So she said, look up there. You see all these little holes around the boat? And I said, yeah. She said, those used to be stripper poles. And I was like, what? She said, yeah. So the Russians would come over here. They would party, bring their little people out there. They dance and do all kinds of crazy stuff on the boat. And then they, started increasing the ability to come into the country. So they had to get rid of the boat because they couldn't get back here because they would get all the way over here and get sent back. Yeah. So they sold it to my boss, who put about $1 million in it. But they say, Ryan, the boat has to sail. A yacht can't sit in the pier. There has to be a crew. It has to run. You cannot just have it sitting around. And I was like, okay. So she said, so you're here. You enjoying yourself? I said, yeah. She said, you got the speedboat? I said, yeah. She said, you got the food and the drink? I said, yeah. She said, so what you do is you come here for the weekend and you go to the Bahamas and you go and you sail and you enjoy all the stuff and then you enjoy the food. And she said, and then at the end of 3 days, you get the fuck off the boat. And I was like, yeah. That's what you do. So that's the yacht dreams.
That's the yacht dreams.
That's the yacht dreams. 2025. Like, do all those things, but get off the boat because the maintenance that it takes to maintain something like that is nothing that we ever see. All we see is, we're on the boat and, you remember Wolf of Wall Street and everybody's doing the lobster and the drinks and all that, but you don't see what it takes to maintain that. So you go out and you buy and you spend, 10, 15 grand, you take your family there and you get off the boat.
It's funny. I have a buddy of mine. He doesn't own a yacht, but he definitely owns a boat. And he kind of says the same thing. He's like, man, this is like the best and worst thing in the world. Like, I got to get here before.
It's like a timeshare.
Yeah, I got to get here before everybody to get everything set up.
Yep.
Then all y'all come on my boat, y'all party, y'all kick it, then
trash it.
Y'all trash it.
Yeah.
Then y'all get y'all drunk asses off.
Right.
And y'all go home. I'm still out here for another hour and a half cleaning everything up.
Man. True. Facts.
Hey, man, look, so I got to ask too, Ryan, like, because Mike was getting on me about this.
Mike Nice
was getting on me about this ahead of time. And I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I used to intern for you. And you say you don't really remember it because that's how short my internship was. But do you not remember me sending 97 copies of my email, my resume to you in the mail?
Here's the thing about it, Brandon. And I don't want you to take this the wrong way because we're friends and I love you like a brother. I don't remember that shit at all. Okay? And so just, But I want you to know that it comes with good company.
Yeah.
So when I got my internship and I was over at the Blockbuster Video, I would walk across the street and do my comedy show, right? There was a comedy competition, and Mike Roberts and Carol Blackman were there for the finale. and they had a celebrity guest. It was on Labor Day, and so Bobby Brown was a celebrity guest. And so I went over there, and I worked at Blockbuster Video for those. There was a chain of video stores that stayed open to midnight. So I would take my break at 11 o'clock. So I would take my lunch break and walk across the street and compete in the comedy competition. Yeah. And that night, I came in second because the guy who won did all the jokes from the Apollo. I mean, he had them down verbatim. The crowd was going crazy. And so Mike Rob was like, man, I've heard those jokes before, but I had to go with the crowd. And I was like, okay. He said, so what do you want to do? I said, I was an intern in college. I really want to be an intern at V103. And he's like, come down and see me on Monday. And then Bobby Brown was in there. He's like, man, whatever this guy want to do, let him do that shit, man, because he is a funny motherfucker, right? And I was like, yeah, Bobby Brown is co-signed for me. And so fast forward 30 years later, and they're getting the star on the Walk of Fame outside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They got the black Walk of Fame. And so it's all the new edition up there. I mean, everybody, all 6 of them. And I get up and I say, man, I will never say anything bad about Bobby Brown. I said, because he's the reason that I am here today. And I tell the story, and everybody's like, what? Yeah. Oh, man, that's what's up, man. And Bobby says, I'm sorry, man, I don't remember.
I got an idea why he might not remember.
But I'm just saying, for all these years, I've been telling this story. I would never say anything because I'm thinking, in the grand scheme of things, that he's the reason I'm on the radio now. He's going to be, like totally enamored by the story, but he don't remember it. So I'll land this plane by saying, I'm glad that you sent those letters, bro. I'm glad you got whatever the internship was for whatever time it was, but, I mean, there are interviews that when you do, and I've heard like Big Boy and Charlamagne say, when you do so many,
yeah,
it all becomes like a blur sometimes. Like some things I can really, really go back to and remember, but I kind of remember it, but not, not really.
It was a different time.
It's a different time.
No, but that's interesting. You say things were a blur. Like with all this stuff you have done, what are like some of those interviews and moments that like you really do remember, like really jump out at you?
I mean, we had an interview with The Rock, and he was promoting. Remember that movie called The Tooth Fairy?
Yeah.
Right. He was out and he's promoting The Tooth Fairy, and there's a window like this at the studio, right? And you see her over there, and you see Mike over there, and they gave us 10 minutes to interview him on the air. Well, we get in there and we get to laughing, and we're laughing at the same jokes, and 8 minutes go by, and then the lady comes to the window like she's there, and they go start wrapping us up. Okay, then 9 minutes go by, and 10 minutes go by, then 12. But he's having a great time. He's not ready to leave. He's got to do CNN or something. So like 13 minutes go by. She comes to the window. She's banging. Imagine somebody banging on that glass. And he says, excuse me for a second. And he goes out and he fires her on the spot. And he comes back in, and I'll never forget this. He was like, man, sometimes motherfuckers think they're you. And we was like, damn. But it was one of those things where I know my schedule. I know where I got to be, but I'm doing this right now. I'm being present with what's going on here right now. And it spoke to me. It's like, man, sometimes you just got to move stuff around and just pivot to where you are right then, because he was present. We were having a great time. It was a great interview. And that was one of my most memorable ones. Another one was the Versace store in Phipps Plaza, right?
Okay.
The guy who owns Umi is Fashid. Fashid used to be the manager of the Versace store in Phipps Plaza. So who was their number one customer when he was living in Atlanta was Elton John. So Elton John was always in the Versace store, and they hit it off so much that Elton actually hired Fashid to become his manager. So you go from being the manager of the Versace store to the manager of Elton John. So, I'm talking to Fashid one day. I'm like, you know what, man? I want to interview Elton John. And he was like, man, he's not. I said, just ask him, bro. He said, he's not going to do it. So he said he'll do it. So he had those 2 floors in Buckhead in that house. And we went over there, and it was supposed to be a 15-minute interview. And it ended up going for 4 hours.
Wow.
And we talked about so many things. And it's almost like when I do an interview, you always say, eventually the microphones are supposed to disappear if you're doing a good job. And he talked about so many things that they called us the next day and say, hey, man, you can't, please don't air this part. Please don't air this part. Because there's some things in this interview, it's going to have to wait till he's gone. Like, if I was like clout chasing, the stuff that he's talking about in his interview about how, there were cigarette companies that had him a private jet on standby for 24 hours that, he could take it whenever he wanted to and he could fly in. And he was the first one to get $1 million show for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And all the things that he talked about that, like, right now would not be correct in the grand scheme of things. I have to table that to another day. But that was another one. We didn't do an interview, but I tell you one of the most memorable things is somebody said to me, they said, hey, man, are you going to be in Fort Lauderdale? I said, I can get there. They said, well, would you like to meet Minister Farrakhan? This is like when he was still flying around and doing stuff. And I said, okay. And we go, and I go to this penthouse suite, and it's got all security and stuff. And it's supposed to be 15 minutes. And I ended up staying there for 3 hours. I mean, we just hit it off with the stuff that he was telling me. And he was actually predicting things that happened in my career based on how I was presenting myself and the facts of what I was going through at the station at the time. And he was like, man, he said, oh, they're going to try to get rid of you. And I was like, man, they ain't going to try to get rid of you. He said, they're going to try to get rid of you. And he was right because I was so blinded by the fact that I thought, nah, they'll never try to get rid of me. And he was on it. On it.
Like, right, he was predicting it. You've met a lot of people, too. I mean, obviously, you've met a lot of people. You've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of people with money. Like, what have you noticed about people that just at that level of success or wealth that, like, the average person might not realize?
Evander Holyfield told me this one time, and he said, the only thing worse than an a-hole is an a-hole with money. And you got to think about that because imagine I'm already a jerk.
Right.
You already can't stand me. And then I get rich. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
It's on.
It's turning up then.
It is like now I'm making you do all. I mean, look at what Kanye's talking about.
Yeah.
Like he's going out on 10. Like
right.
He's like, I'm back a billionaire. Trump's in office. All is right with the world. And today he's embracing Hitler and talking about he got a line with Sean John. It's like
got his wife walking around
like,
naked.
What is going on, man? It's like he got the money. He's like, who gonna cancel me?
Right.
And so what I've learned from people with money, man, is that if they're okay when they get money, it's better that they came from nothing and they could appreciate it more than, they was talking about the people who win the lottery, how they're like usually broke within 4 or 5 years because they just don't know what to do with it. They can't handle all of that. So the people that I know that really have done really well, they're still the same people. Like I said, I can call them, I can text them, they'll call me because I just don't ask them for anything because I'm like everybody else is asking you for stuff. So I try not to do that.
Yeah, it seems like because I see like the stuff you'll post with like you and Ludacris and stuff like that.
Right.
It just seems like y'all are just it's just two friends hanging out and kicking it.
We always check on each other, man. And Chris is probably one of my closest friends who was also an intern. But as I watched him grow, he's the same guy. You know what I'm saying? And I think even like he gets the opportunities that he's like the new Snoop. I feel like because you'll see him on commercials and with Movado or with State Farm and all these different things.
Yeah.
It's very strategic in the stuff that he's doing. It's very mainstream. But then he got the Fast and Furious franchise. I mean, he's doing all those things. I asked him, I said, you should send Ja Rule, money every year. Because, when he decided he was going to go on tour and not do that Fast and Furious, that's when they got Chris.
Right.
And here we go, like 8 movies later.
Fast and Furious 50.
Come on, man. Shoot, that's you got to be ready.
It's a franchise.
For sure.
Yeah, man. And I mean, even thinking about like folks like that, you've seen Atlanta evolve over the years. Like, what do you think? What do you think makes Atlanta so unique in like the way that the culture here operates? Because it's not perfect,
no,
by far. But like, what makes Atlanta unique, especially just having seen it all these years?
Well, I mean, I always tell people, and I've been asked this question before. Atlanta is a city of mavericks. Okay, so you can go all the way back to Dr. King and to Hosea Williams and to Ralph Abernathy, to Andy Young, to Maynard Jackson, to Hank Aaron, to Evander Holyfield, to all those people that never tried to fit in. I mean, even look at what you've done with this, right? when you came up with this idea, you weren't trying to mold yourself to be anybody else. You were trying to be unique to the culture. And then, they always say if you're good enough, the people will find you, right? And that's kind of been how I think Atlanta is. Even with all the stuff with Outkast and the South's got something to say and all those different things, I mean, I think that what we've been able to land on is that we've never tried to fit in with everybody else. We don't come down and try to do another accent or try to be somebody else or try to wear somebody else's clothes. It's always been Atlanta to the fullest, no matter what that is. Now, the thing that's different between, and I'm not going to say old Atlanta, but traditional Atlanta is Atlanta back in the day, we wanted to be them.
Yeah.
Atlanta now is me. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. Look at, so you got 89 different toy drives.
Right.
You got 89 different turkey giveaways, as opposed to you calling this guy and that guy calling that guy, and we saying, yeah, let's go to Costco and let's buy 10,000 turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do one mass giveaway, but it's very separate now, and that's the only thing that I get disheartened by. It's like I wish that somebody. I was talking to. This is a quick aside. I was talking to Shirley Franklin yesterday, right? And her number's still the same. She's the 57th mayor of the city, and I called her and I said, "Congratulations on having
She got a street named after her.
The reservoir,
Yeah.
and the street in front of City Hall named after her." And she said, well, my mom always said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. She said, but I want to say, it wasn't just me. I was just in the right place at the right time. And Maynard and Andy, they just put me in the right place. And she said, I want to say, thank you to people like you. And I forgot that when she ran, we had a big powwow. It was me, Dallas, and Jermaine. Like all of us got together and just say we was going to support her. And she was like, y'all really kind of helped. And I forgot it again. Like I forgot about it, but she reminded me. But it's like when you see stuff like that, and you see people who are, again, she's the first black mayor in the city's history that's a woman.
Yeah,
it's Mavericks, man. It's like not trying to fit in, but just kind of doing what we do.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I experienced the same thing even with the stuff we do with 404 Day, right? Like there's, a million different people trying to do different things. And so one thing that we've tried to do, to your point, is like bring people together around it.
Right.
And it's tough, because everybody kind of wants to do their own thing for different reasons. But like I actually just had like a walkthrough with some folks the other day and was like, let's just collaborate. Again, we could do so much more together. And I don't see a lot of people having those kind of conversations. I don't know when it became like so like singular, so personal.
I mean, I think it's the question, Brandon, that's not asked is the worst question ever. If you don't ever ask a question, and I remember being in a room, and I think I may have told you this, but for the sake of this, it was like I was in a room, and actually Luda had invited me. He's like, I want to take you somewhere. And I was in Vegas. And I said, where are we going? And he's like, I can't tell you. So I'm like, man, where are we going? So we get in this car, and we go behind these hotel suites, and there's all these SUVs parked. And we get on this elevator, but there's a car on the elevator, like a convertible. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's a convertible on the elevator. So we get off, and we're like in a little vestibule, spot maybe a third of this room. And all of a sudden, Prince just appears, like out of thin air, like poof. And he's like, I hope you guys are hungry. And I'm like, oh. And I want to go, I want some pancakes. But I was like, no, it'll kick me out. And so we're sitting at this table, and it's me, it's Luda, it's Gabrielle Union, it's Tony Braxton, it's Sean Robinson from Access Hollywood, and Hill Harper. And then on this end of the table is Dave Chappelle, and on this end is Prince. And so Tony Braxton is talking to Prince, and she's saying how expensive it is to have a show in Vegas. She's like, they charge me for this, they charge me for that, and they charge me for this. And then she's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And Prince was like, this is Vegas. They print money. I'm not paying anyone for anything. And she was like, what? Why do you tell me? And he was like, you didn't ask. And I kind of think that's what it is in business and with relationships in Atlanta. Yeah. Is like, if I go out and I know that something's going to fail, this ain't going to work. I've done it. I've seen it flop. But you don't ask me, that's on you. Mm-hmm. But if I go out and if it fails and I say, no, man, and you say, hey, man, what do you think of this idea? And I don't tell you, then that's on me.
Right.
And I just think that we have a problem in trying to share information because we're in a very much I win, so you must lose mentality as opposed to I win, we all can win together. And I think if we could change that, it's only going to take a couple of us to have some really big, and everything. I always tell people, everything doesn't have to be a home run, man. There are people in the Hall of Fame who hit, a whole bunch of singles.
Yeah.
If you can bat 300, you in there. You in there, baby. You know what I'm saying? Everything got to be a home run. So I wish that we would share more information and more, information about what we can do to succeed as opposed to just failing.
No, I agree. I think a lot of people kind of have that. It's win and lose mentality. It seems very binary sometimes. I always kind of say it seems like. It's hard and I know everything can't be 50-50, but like it's always like, all right, it's got to be 51-49. Like somebody's got to get a little bit more, a little bit more credit, a little bit more notoriety, a little bit more money off of it, and it's like, nah, like you get more value by leaving some of that stuff on the table,
exactly,
and bringing more people into it. Like,
everybody should eat.
Everybody got to eat.
Yeah.
Now, you've been doing the radio stuff obviously for a long time, but you've had like multiple moments. I remember one moment I always remember is I think when you went back to V. And you, I think you had like a signing day or something like that. I remember you had like a press conference.
Yeah.
And I had never seen something like that before. I'm like, man, this is amazing. But, all this comes from you kind of betting on yourself. Like, what advice would you give to somebody when it comes to just betting on themselves? Because, again, we're in this space right now. Everybody wants to be a maker, a creator. Everybody wants to have a platform, a voice. And look, it ain't built for everybody. Some people are really good number 2s and number 3s and number 15s in companies.
Yeah. I mean, there's 300,000 podcasts, right?
Pretty much.
I mean, I was just talking about somebody earlier today. They was like, everybody wants to be Joe Rogan. Everybody wants to be $1 million worth of game or the pivot. It's just, they were telling me somebody who I thought was very successful. And I was like, what? And they was like, yo, it's costing them $6,000 a podcast and they ain't made no money yet.
Yeah.
And they do 48, I mean, they do 8, what, it was like $50,000. And I was like, what? And they was like, I was like, man, that's tough. You know what I'm saying? But I think my advice to people is if you keep doing good work, they will find you. Mm-hmm. My situation has always been the guy who was in front of me nutted up. It's just plain and simple. The person who had the spot before me, they did something that either made them lose the spot or they just weren't ready for the lights. Mm-hmm. And I think, you always say, man, if I could just get a shot, if I could just get a chance, and then you get a chance. I remember one time, man, there was this guy, you go to a barbershop, right? And people talk trash about sports. Man, something Eagles ain't gonna have nothing on the cheese and blah, blah, blah. And they run in the barbershop. Yeah. They are the king of the barbershop and trash talk. So one of the sports talk stations had an opening. And they were like, yo, we looking for somebody else to come in. So I got a guy, big shout out to Jerry Clark. I got Jerry Clark and this guy to go in there and they did their audition. Of course, Jerry Clark went on to do his podcast and doing great things. But the guy who was with him was the barbershop guy.
Okay.
So they get in there and Jerry tees him up. And this guy, this thing right here, he wasn't ready for that, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, he froze to the... Man, he could have been Jeezy. He was so frozen in that joint. And it was one of those things where you're like, wow. He always said, if I ever had a chance. And he had a chance. And he basically wasn't ready. So it's like you got to be ready when your time comes to shine because it ain't for everybody.
Yeah, a friend of mine gave me some advice that always stuck with me. He said, when it comes to opportunities, looks get you in the door.
Right.
Talent gets you hired. He said, but once you're on, it's all about stage presence.
That's right.
Like, what do you do when the microphone, the lights are on? Mm-hmm. What do you do when it's your time to step up? Yeah. And so that's something I've always kind of thought about, right? It's like, again, people, you got to be doing something for me to look your direction.
Where's my camera? Right there?
Yeah.
Whenever I go, watch this, Mike. Whenever I go into an event like this, whenever I go into a podcast or a thing on a big stage, I wear these socks.
Not the fuck this shit socks.
Cause that to me, when I look down, I'm nervous. I'm like, man, fuck this shit. Like, it ain't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Just go in there and be you. You know what I'm saying? Don't get sometimes you get so worked up about stuff that you'll blow the opportunity, worried about the people sitting out there in the audience who are just as nervous as you are. Yeah. I saw like Nikki Glaser last night for the NFL honors. She was doing the same joke she was doing at the Tom Brady roast, and they was falling flat. Mm-hmm. I mean, whew, you got to read the room.
Right.
Right? And she didn't read that room because athletes are all used to being talked about and being made fun of. She made a joke about somebody, and it just was crickets. And I was like, she should have on some fuck this shit socks. And she just went there and went for it. Because you can see once a joke falls flat, then it changes your whole trajectory. Right. Now, I just ain't going. So I always wear these socks, no matter what I'm doing. If it's the bigger the event, I'm gonna have on these socks. I never, it might be a podcast. It might be going to, the emceeing the 100 Black Men black tie dinner. It might be, whatever it is. I'm gonna have on these socks because I don't ever want to get too worked up about the event.
Nah, man, you know what?
And they're available on Amazon.
I was going to say, we're going to give me a pair of those socks.
They're available on Amazon. Just type in, fuck this shit socks.
Now give me some. That'll be my superpower. Let me ask you, man, like, as somebody that does a show every day, like, what makes a good radio show in your opinion? Like, how do you kind of prepare to make sure you're giving your audience the best show possible?
I get up at 5, and I start looking for stories because my dogs are up at 6. And if I'm not up before them, they're gonna be howling and scratching. I got 4 dogs, right? And my wife is sitting there, and she's like, "They're gonna start in a minute." I'm like, "Okay, let me try to get these stories done." But the team is the most important element, right?
Yeah.
It's a reason that you have her. It's a reason that you have him and your engineer. The people behind, and we've talked about this off mic. The people behind you are the most important. My producer right now, Bonnie Banks.
Shout out to Bonnie.
She's a beast, man. She's a beast, and she's a Sagittarius too, so she takes no prisoners and has no filters, just like me. So when you find somebody like that is a like mind and is just as hungry to help you shine.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just want to be in the background. Like Gelman on the Kelly and her husband show. He's been there forever. He'll say something every now and then, but then he's also a feature of the show. Like Bonnie's a feature of the show, because she has that millennial attitude of a 30-something-year-old, and she'll say some stuff like, coming on the radio and saying that if Michael Jackson was alive today, he'd be opening up for Beyonce. Girl, you tripping.
That's some millennial stuff.
But that's a millennial. She actually believes that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To have that kind of perspective. But I think, to answer your question, man, the team is what makes you get excited about going to work every day. Because I've been to work sometimes in other radio stations, and the person didn't do any prep at all. Mm-hmm. And they just came in and just kind of laughed at their jokes. And I was like, man, this is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough when people don't come in. It's almost like having a group project and they get an A, they didn't do nothing. It's kind of what it feels like.
What they always say is like, I want all the people I've worked in group projects with to be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time.
That's funny. That's funny. I like that.
Like with everything that's been changing again, because like radio is obviously different now than it was. You got started, and you have all these other things like social media and all that stuff. Like,
right.
How do you kind of reinvent and what you do to kind of just make it stay fresh and make it stay relevant?
Well, I mean, here's the thing about the difference between radio and podcasting or all these other things. If there was a plane that were to crash right here, right now,
mm-hmm.
and I was to go outside and see that plane, I can go on the radio right now and do that story live.
Right.
By the time the news gets in the truck, gets a cameraman, it's not. The thing about radio is always now. We can do it now. You got to upload this podcast. You got to go and you got to edit it. It's not instant. And that's why radio is always going to have a foothold in society, because it's instant. It's right now. Now, streaming, of course, has its own merits. But as far as like being able to go on and do it instantly, that's what I think is radio's strong suit. I mean, you're seeing what's happening right now with TV. TV is where radio was a couple of years ago. TV revenues are down. Everybody's holding on to budgets. Stuff is getting canceled left and right. You're not getting a second year. You're not getting like the syndication deals. All those things are gone by the wayside now because people are like, we don't have the ad revenue to support the salaries of what we're paying people. And so you see that happening, and a lot of times where the atmosphere just changes because the money's changed, because revenue's down. So, like the Super Bowl ads this weekend, I'm sure they're not going to be as expensive as they've been in past years because, things have changed.
It's a very kind of like cyclical thing. I think you see these opportunities and you see just the way everything kind of moves. And to your point, like, I kind of got my chops working with the 2 Live Stews back in the day, when I was at 790. And that's what I kind of learned. I always said, you know what, like the ability for radio it's now, to your point, but it's also the ability to kind of mobilize people.
Right.
And that's what I think is like really interesting about it. And I think that's also what people kind of miss even when it comes to social media and all this stuff, right? Like this,
Right.
you have influence because somebody like liked the post or left a comment.
Right.
But the real influence is, can you get people to get off that phone and come meet you somewhere, come do something? So
I mean, it's even happened, and not to cut you off, it's even happened in religious stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have friends that are mega pastors. I mean, big time. And I've said to them, I said, why is church shorter? And they were like, yo, we have conferences too. And they say, you get into a church and there's a countdown clock.
Yeah.
And they say the average attention span of somebody in a church service these days is 20 minutes.
Really?
So no more of that, come on, choir now. And then you like, man, church was, hey, man, we was in church at 1 o'clock. They say when it gets to 2 minutes, it starts flashing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling all the ministers, if you don't get this message out there, you're going to lose these people. And I'm telling you, if I told you some of these names, you'd be like, really? Because now in this society, people's attention span is totally different. You're going to miss the message.
Yeah.
So if you're missing the message, then what you go to church for? So you got about 20 minutes to get that message across to people. The closing, when the minister comes up for the close, it ain't gonna be longer than 20 minutes.
Oh no, I remember all the hemming and hawing, all the
Right.
all the theatrics and stuff like that. Even my parents' church is a very long-standing traditional church, been around I think over 100+ years. And
Yeah.
I go there now, and I remember growing up. Yeah, you get to church at 7 a.m. You're not leaving till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's if there's not a program.
Yeah, you
in
can't
the
do
evening.
that.
Now they got a 45, 50-minute service one time a day. They're
That's
like,
it.
yo, we in and out.
Yeah, I mean, you lose people. You lose them.
What do you think are some of the most defining moments in just like Atlanta culture? If you had to pick like 2 or 3, what are just some moments that just really jump out at you?
I always tell people this. They don't want to act like I don't know what I'm talking about. Atlanta nightlife has been defined by crime.
Shout out Ray Lewis.
He was second. So if you look at it, first, Fred Tokars
Yeah.
kills his wife on my birthday. I never forget it. When he hired that crackhead to kill his wife in front of her 2 boys, that eliminated diamonds and pearls and all that because of his ability to launder those money for that drug dealer. So that changed all that culture. And then the Buckhead Bar District was Ray Lewis that you alluded to earlier, where that happens. Then you have, all those things are closing. It was like it gave people a chance to say, this is what we needed finally to get these Negroes up out of here, right?
Excuse.
and then you had the BMF era, which of course, once that stuff happened, that was just like the finale. You know what I'm saying? So I think anything that's been like really shifting the culture in Atlanta, which starts with the nightlife. And I said this on another show, and people got mad, and the promoters were all upset because I was saying, like, when they brought the culture of Vegas to Atlanta, when it went from being a dance floor to just sections, it changed everything. And people because I said, I named names. I mean, you can't name. I mean, when I've dealt with clubs, I never dealt with a promoter. I always dealt with the owner, the person who put the butts in the club. So I'm sorry that the promoter people got mad, but, you have one night.
No, but it's true though. I mean, as a person that goes out, you go to all these spots. It's just sections. Everybody kind of sitting around. It's not, people aren't in there. Like I'm like, this y'all version of a good time. Like y'all came here, you spent all this money to come to this room to sit on your phone on a sofa and not talk to anybody.
Exactly.
Why
do it?
Why do it? But to your point, like that's that like West Coast, Las Vegas, Los Angeles culture.
It's definitely Vegas. I mean, the sections. I mean, if you go to Vegas right now, you're gonna have the lights and the music and the and you're just gonna have a good time regardless because you're in Vegas.
Right.
I always tell people when they come into Atlanta, like, it's raining tonight. I was like, what? If it was raining in Vegas, would we stay in? I'm like, no. Okay, then. Well, let's go.
When you have people come in, if you had to describe like what's a perfect day in Atlanta like to you, if you had to describe it for somebody coming from out of town?
I mean, everything that I do right now always revolves around good food.
Okay.
You know, because if you go to a great restaurant in Atlanta and it's good from the breadsticks to the dessert, it's a good time, right? And to me, it's like the traditional, like, I love all the Buckhead Life restaurants,
Mhm.
right? And because one of the owners and my son went to school together. So Pano, and when it was Pano and Paul's, and when they had all these different restaurants, and when they sprung out, and that's Chops and Lobster Bar and Kima and Preachy and Corner Bakery, all those different places. It's all based on the food for me, right? But as far as like there's the one thing that is avoided after you eat is that there's nowhere to go and land for any live entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. I have not seen any place in Atlanta be able to sustain that. We used to have, remember they had the juke joint that
Yeah.
was downtown or whatever?
Yeah, right there on Peachtree Street.
Right there next to 200. I
Yeah.
mean, I thought that was going to happen. We had Kenny's Alley, which was like, they've had all these different, it's just, that's the one thing that I was like, so people say, okay, we ate, now what?
Right.
That's the problem.
I mean, even right over here, they had a spot over here called Damsel. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was kind of like you would go in, they had dinner and everything set up, and then they kind of had like a burlesque style show.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really nice. It was put together, and that thing was open for like 3-4 months. And then it just
It's
closed
hard,
out the
man.
blue all of a sudden.
It's hard. It's hard when you got, like, the workspace over here, we kind of christened that thing.
Mhm.
Like, when I was living in the loft right here on Marietta Street, we would come down here before they even had, like, they don't have like 2 stores in that joint. And to see what it's become, it's like amazing. But still, you wish there was something they could do in there that would be something that would be live entertainment. I know they have stuff, spotted here and there, but I think that's the one thing that Atlanta is missing. Is like, it's too many creatives in here for us not to have a spot where it's like not just R&B night.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a place every Friday night we did this, almost like they have the Wednesday wind down and all those different things. But somebody needs to be able to pull that off. But I don't know if people can want to risk that kind of money, because if it doesn't go well, you're stuck on a lease that you can't get out of.
Man.
Then even with, like, I say this, and one thing about being able to hold the L, I think Atlanta is a place where you got to sometimes say, okay, maybe that was a good idea on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I open up Doughboy in South DeKalb Mall, people were like, man, what you doing in there? Why you doing in there? And I was like, man, black people need to have a place where they can eat and do whatever. The mall traffic is not what it is.
Yeah.
And it's gotten even worse. So Super Bowl Sunday will be my 2-year anniversary, right? Which in restaurant is a lifetime.
A long time, yeah.
Right? So shout out to all the people who've come out and supported and who bought pizza and whatever, because I feel like when you have something that's not going to encourage traffic, you have to do it because you want to go and support the business, right? Because there's not a lot of stores in there. There's no anchor stores. If you're coming in there, you're doing it because you want to support us. And we got fly damn good pizza, right? But I think one of the challenges with that is that if you see some of these businesses that try to pop up and do something that's different, if they're not really catering to the fans of the brand, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
It's going to be a struggle, man. And I see so many people, and shout out to Big Dave and the Cheese Steaks, and now he's got the Crab Boys and something else. And with Pinky, what they've been able to do, they just latched on, and Local Greens, and Zach. Those people, you find a niche, and those people hold on to that craft. For me, the only thing they said that did not have a problem during the pandemic was Chinese food and wings and pizza. So I'm like, well, I don't think black people gonna come and think, Ryan's Chinese food. That ain't gonna work. So we did the pizza thing, and it's been some challenges, because to what we talked about earlier, these young folks, they just don't want to work. Yeah. They don't want to work at all. They have no drive, because I blame some of the times the parents is that we've given them so much. They expect. I had this. I know I've had a million assistants, right? I just want to, if I could assist me, I'd be great. But this young lady came in, and she was a former school teacher. She had never done it before. So she came in, and she worked for 1 week, and then she Googled. I said, well, let's see how it goes for the first week. She Googled personal assistant, and she said, well, I'm going to present something to you. And I said, okay, well, present it. And he said, well, I want you to read over it. And I said, okay. So she had all these duties. She said, I want to work from 9 to 3, Monday through Wednesday. And then I need to have Thursday through Sunday off. I said, oh, okay. All right. I said, what else? Well, you'll see here that I want it to be, I think it's fair if I got, $5,000 a month. I said, and you get 4 days off?
Right. Right.
I said, well, it was nice knowing you. I wish you the best. And she's like, we can't talk about it. No. You what? You ain't ever even done this before. This is your first time doing this. And this is what you want. This how you come in? Like, you got to, it's levels.
Yeah, it's levels. You got to step up. You got to earn it.
You come on, man. Yeah, but, I mean, it's just the way that they think these days. It's a sense of entitlement. It's a microwave society, and everybody wants it now. And I never came from that.
No, I mean, look, I was sneaking out, lying on the business license, the business permit applications when I was, 13, saying that I was 15, 16, riding the bus to the mall to get a job.
Exactly.
That's what you did.
But you get that from, I think that you get that work ethic from your parents. Like, my mom had one job her entire life.
Yeah.
She started off as a phone operator, and that was when it was Southern Bell, who then was acquired to become Bell South, which then they got to be AT&T. But she stayed with the company her whole entire life, even to retire. So from being a teenager, she has that kind of loyalty. And I started working at the age of 12. I lied and was working at the Chinese food restaurant near my neighborhood called the House of Ho, and was washing dishes for $26 over the weekend because I just wanted to go out there and just earn my own money. I've always been like that, but I watched her work. So I'm like, okay, let me go out there and work. I think if you see, people grow up to be what they see.
Yeah.
And if you see a good role model that's out there working, my grandfather, may he rest in peace, he worked at Ideal Roller Company for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? He worked from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. And I saw him go out there every day. My other grandfather, he had a janitorial service, and he worked and cleaned buildings and houses and stuff. I mean, if you see work, you're going to work. But if you see nothing, you ain't going to do nothing.
No. I remember I used to intern. I had this kid that was interning for me back when I was working in PR. And, he had he didn't have the best internship. It was over the summer. He was kind of missing some things here and there. But, we tried to work with him. And at the end of the internship, I'd always kind of sit down with everybody and be like, all right, obviously the goal here is
an exit interview?
Yeah, but, it's also like, if you're doing good, the goal is for you to hopefully like transition into like an entry-level role in some way.
Right.
And so, I was kind of having my interview with him, just kind of seeing, where his head was at. And I'll never forget, like, we were talking, and I was like, well, it's been a little tough, but, you did all right. So have you started like looking at, roles and stuff like that, like entry level?
Right.
And he was like, yeah, I found a role. He slid a piece of paper across the desk, and it was like a SVP level. And at this point, I was a vice president at the company. I said, so let me get this straight. You want to go from intern to SVP? You want to go even higher than I currently am here? Mm-hmm. And I've been here for like 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And I asked him, what makes you think? Now, you read the qualifications on the paper.
Yeah.
Like, one qualification says you need 15 years of experience.
Right.
Like, sir, you've been out of college for 3 months. like why do you even think that you could apply for this? And he looked me dead in my face, and he said, my mama said I can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
I said, well, does your mama have 15 years of experience? Because
hey, it'll work if you work. I saw a post today, and they were talking about, and it gives you your credit as well for your letters that you wrote, that Roger Goodell, who they said has made $700 million as the NFL commissioner, and they were talking about how he got started. And I forgot who he's being interviewed by, but he said that he wrote a letter to the NFL. He wrote 53 letters trying to become an intern. This is the commissioner of the NFL. He said, I wrote 53 letters, and finally they called me and they said, listen, if you ever in New York, stop by. He said, I happen to be in New York right now. He said, well, stop by at 8 o'clock in the morning. He said he was in Pittsburgh.
Right. I know that game.
And he drove all night to make that interview. It's like, and now you see he's like one of the most powerful people in the world. But I'm like, you got to have that gumption, that want to.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it a lot with people now. They don't have that want to. And if you find somebody and they have that, be more creative in saying, hey, man, what else is it that you want to do? and try to encourage those things, because after a while, people going to get bored. And next thing you know, hey, man, sorry, Brandon, man, Butternomics been good, but I'm out. He's like, wait. It's like, well, you never. Kevin Rathman, right, who owns Rathman Steak and owns all those places. He used to be the head chef at the Buckhead Life restaurants. A lot of people don't know this, right?
Okay.
And he'll tell you the story himself. And he was like, he talked to him. He's like, yo, I really want to do my own restaurant. I really want to branch out. Now, all they had to do was like, you know what, Kev? Yeah, let's do this. Let's partner. They was like, nah, we want you to stay here. And he was like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
And now he owns damn near all of Krog Street because he, like you said, he bet on himself. And I think a lot of times if people want to partner with you, just go ahead and try to help somebody with their dream, because it may end up being, something bigger than anybody could ever imagine. I saw DMX's wife, and she was talking about how they came to, Jay-Z came to DMX and was like, hey, I'm investing in the Barclays Center. And, do you want to do it? Put in $1 million. And his wife was like, yeah, we should do that. And he was like, I don't know. And you saw what it ended up being. And she was like, I don't know anything about it, but I knew it seemed like a good idea. But, they always say the person who's the most dangerous individual is the person with no counsel and no conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ain't got nobody who can't tell you nothing and you don't care what nobody feels or thinks, that's a very dangerous individual. I'm not saying that's what happened with DMX, but a lot of people are saying that's what we're seeing right now, what's going on in the White House.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't tell that man nothing.
Right.
And he ain't listening to nobody.
He's got all the access, all the power.
I did it y'all way the first time, and I fired all those people, and this is what I'm doing. And it ain't even 3 weeks in.
Get ready.
I'm saying. Right?
It's going to be a bumpy ride. Like I said, we a month in.
Yeah.
At this point in your life and career, man, like how would you define like this point in your life and career?
I think I'm trying to pivot into. There's a book called From Strength to Strength.
You told me about that, and I did read it. I appreciate.
So
that. Yeah.
And you're younger, way younger than me, but it talks about how eventually all of your skills are going to start to diminish, and you're no longer going to be the go-to guy. I had to do this. I did a thing the other day they had the HBCU job fair, and had all these kids over at Banneker High School, and then there was a step show at the end, and I was the MC, and I told the guy in charge, I said, hey man, I got a team of people that do this, and I said, I want you to still book me, but I'm going to book it and send it off to them, because these young people are going to identify with them more than me, because they look like them. And, he was like, okay, I respect that, And so I say, for me, the thing that motivates me is like, I'm trying to downsize, right? Because I've had all the things, the mansions, the cars, the all that stuff. I mean, but to me now, a good life is great food, great company, and somebody that you can trust day by day when you get home. Like my garage at my house, I live out in Stockbridge. My garage don't work. You buy a house and they give you the garage openers and it doesn't work. And so, oh, man, they got me. And so, but every day when I get home, the sensor goes off and my wife knows that I'm there. So she opens the garage and she comes out, and I put up on a post, and she's greeting me, and the look on her face, it makes me realize that that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
And I'm never getting that garage fixed. I'm never, because to see her every day and to see that look, it makes me understand what is important to me. It's like, I always tell people, don't try to book me on a Friday. They say, why? Because we had booked this on a Friday. Like, if this had been a Friday night podcast, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
Because when I get my shoes off,
that's it.
Bruh.
Will you take them fuck this shit socks off?
I take them fuck this shit off. It's over with, because to me, if you've done a whole career, I think I probably have done, 10,000 interviews. I've probably done clubs since the 90s, 91. So nothing gets me. Like, there will be tours that I will buy tickets to just to sell.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going. because I've seen it. Like Atlanta, the one thing that Atlanta people don't talk about, it's the same 4 streets. Right? Northside Drive, going down to Marietta, whatever. And every event that goes there, what happens? You go and you have a great time, and then you stuck in traffic for 2 hours to get out.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I'm not doing that. I would rather go see Usher in Tampa or in Vegas, or go see, The Weeknd in New Orleans, where at least I got something to do afterwards.
Man, walk around and do something.
That, like, we cannot change that, but we keep building stuff. You got the Benz, and now you got, State Farm Arena. Now you got a hotel, and now when they get the Gulch developed,
it's gonna be,
and the World Cup is coming here, it's gonna be come on, man. Like, no, I just can't. I can't entertain that space. I'm one of those people. Like, I go to a place and they'll be like, "Yo, Ryan, come over to such and such," and I'll drive around the parking lot, and if I can't find a space, I'm like, "This is God." This is God telling me that I need to go
Just
home.
go home.
And they're like, "Where you at, man?" "Man, I'm back at the crib, dog." I can't do it.
I like my house. Look.
Yeah, man.
I like my own mind being there. I pay for it every month.
My neighbors are like a movie set, bro. I've been there almost over a year, and I think I might have seen one person, and she was walking a cat on a leash. So I'm feeling like I'm in some kind of like netherworld, upside down space, man, because I don't see anybody, and that's fine with me. I'm good.
Peace.
Yeah.
Look, man, before we get out of here, my last question for you is just, what is a piece of advice that you kind of go by that, that kind of help drive and helps you, stay motivated?
It ain't mine. I mean, and I gave this to him, and he didn't remember. It's funny. LL Cool J was on the show, and he's got a book. And in one of the passages at the very end, he talks about dreams not having deadlines. And I say to people, especially stop putting timetable limits on yourself. A lot of times we like to say, "Oh man, by the time I'm 30, I need to be doing this and doing that. And by the time I'm 25, they call it the quarter life crisis, right? Where you are putting these limits or these timelines or these deadlines on things that you want to have accomplished or where you should be in your life. And I don't think it works like that. I think, God will place things in their proper perspective based on how you are aligning yourself with what you're supposed to do in your life, right? I mean, going through therapy, and which we've talked about, is like, it's a major thing where you got to realize, what is it that made my antenna crooked? Why couldn't I see this foolishness coming? Or why was I not as discerning? Or why did I not have boundaries? And you have to go through all those things. And once you're starting to straighten those things out, you'll see things straighten out in your life. Yeah. But until you work on yourself, then, and this is a great analogy, right? One of my friends said this. He said, "What are you? Are you Tarzan or are you Spider-Man?" And I was like, "Man, what the hell are you talking about?" He said, "A lot of times with us, when you're successful, as you're successful, right, you will be Tarzan. And what Tarzan does, he goes from one rope and he grabs the next rope. So you go from one thing and you grab the next thing. And you go from one thing, and if you hold on too long, it's going to pull you back.
Right.
But Spider-Man, he'll shoot a web and he'll go to that building and he'll just float in the air sometimes and just hang there, and then he'll hit something else. Like, you got to be more Spider-Man than Tarzan. Instead of going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, just kind of hang for a minute, man, and let it unfold. Yeah. And then latch on to something else." And I was like, "Man, that's pretty damn dope." He's like, "You can have that." Because it makes sense when you think about it, because as we go through life, we're always trying to grab on to the next thing, and we never celebrate the wins or just kind of be still and just float like a Spider-Man would do. We're so busy trying to be Tarzan. So my thing is like, my advice was like, dreams don't have deadlines, man, but try to be Spider-Man.
I like that.
Hey.
Spider-Man versus Tarzan.
Spider-Man versus Tarzan.
But to use that one, man.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, man, I appreciate it. I've, again, always have admired the work you've done, and I'm, just happy to consider you a friend, somebody I connect with.
We are friends, Brandon. We are friends. We are friends.
We actually do talk. We actually are friends. But no, man, I really appreciate you pulling up to the podcast, man.
I appreciate it, man, and continue to do all the things you're doing, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely, man. And that's the pod, y'all. We out. Boom.